Yo, hey, oh, hey, oh, hey. Hey, what up,
Happy
babies?
Sunday, baby. Happy
Here we are.
Sunday.
Here we are, bro. Here we are. And, bro, you know what? We're back. We're back with another little series because you all loved it so damn much. We are doing a series on what's in this cranium. Yo, how do we come? Wait, bro, how did this all start about this brain short? This series, bro. How did this start?
Man. So I like researching. I like there's a few YouTube channels I subscribe to. One is by this guy Steve Bartlett, Diaries of a CEO. If you haven't checked him out, you gotta check him out. He has some amazing guests on the show, and every time I watch his stuff, I learn so much from him. And he had a doctor on there, and basically the title was I scanned over 250,000 brains, and he's like the ADD or ADHD doctor, psychiatrist as well. And I started just like, oh, let me check this out. Maybe I'll learn like one or two things. I probably learned like 50 things. And I studied the brain for a long time, which is like, just through academia and just through my own research. And a lot of this stuff, it just blew my mind. So I shot you the link. I was like, Paul, you got to check this out. This is really cool stuff. And then when you told me that you enjoyed it, I was like, let's make a mini series heavily influenced on what Dr. Daniel Amen was talking about, so some of our guests can understand. We'll drop a link in the show notes too, so you can watch the whole episode. And he has a bunch of YouTube videos, and he's such a sought after doctor, and the guy was just awesome. So I hope you guys enjoy this.
Yo, he was awesome, man. I was like, if you've ever had one of those situations where you're listening to something and the gem hits you like a jab, you're like pop, pop, pop. That's what it was like listening to Dr. Amen. And by the way, Diary of a CEO, I dig how that dude interviews. Really great show, great he's I dig what he does.
He's a good
And
dude.
that content is on point. If you have the opportunity to watch this as well as watch these shorts, please do. And today, because there's a lot of valuable content in this, so we're gonna break this out. This first video, though, is really gonna go over the anatomy of the brain and some of the facts that Brian and I thought were very interesting. We want to share with you all. And again, the video to the whole thing is in the show notes. Before and as we get ready to go into this, I think it's only fair, B, that we show them a pretty brain. Okay.
That's a pretty brain.
A pretty brain. That's a pretty brain. Ooh, child, look at you, you pretty thing. I love you so much. Look at this. All right, so look, as we're gonna go over some stuff today, we're gonna talk to some of these main brain pieces. Now, this is far from me and B thinking we know all this. This is just some stuff that we took in, as Brian said, that we just want to create some sort of foundation as to the knowledge of what some of these things are that we're talking about. So specifically, like some of the things that they were talking about as far as circulation getting to different parts of the brain, the frontal lobe. But you ever heard of the executive brain?
Yes.
Yes. This is it.
Mm-hmm.
So this executive brain, this is all like basically it's the prefrontal cortex. So that's that part of us that like has it's the analyzer. It controls all the executive functions. So executive functions meaning like your reasoning, your decision making, memory.
Impulse control.
Yup, mental control. Like usually there's things that goes after you have like a lot of drinks and stuff. Like usually your executive function diminishes. Right. Yeah. So that's that piece. Now we also have what was another one that they talked about, B?
The cerebellum in the back.
The cerebellum. So the cerebellum, which is interesting, this is the one that is responsible for coordinating movement and maintaining balance and posture.
Yeah. And processing speed. Well, you process things.
Brother. Yeah. So listen, I'm gonna call it I'm gonna call it, man, dude. When he was talking about like the alcohol and the marijuana, I was like, oh shit, like
Hmm.
it was. Listen, it was some stuff that I needed to hear, and I think more people get to hear. So anyway, so we have the cerebellum again, like processing speed, balance, timing, coordinating movement. We also talked about the pineal. Do you say pineal or pineal?
I've heard of both. I say pineal.
Yeah, I say
Both.
pineapple too, man. I don't know because
Yeah.
I think pineapple. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
we
My
all
English
say,
isn't good.
yeah.
So
What's that? Anyway, you say it
my
right.
English isn't good and my spelling's even worse.
Oh,
Somebody
bro.
once told me a good speller can spell one word many different ways. So I look at myself as an excellent speller. I feel like, how do you spell that? I'm like, how do I spell it or how's it really spelled?
That's right. That's right. Yeah, that's a great question. How
Yeah.
do I spell it? Oh shit, bro. Listen, I swear to goodness, I'm a word junkie, so I love looking up words and stuff. Like if I see something I don't know, I'm like,
Yeah. I'm like
what?
that. Yeah.
Yeah, because sometimes how people use big words, and it's like, why?
Yeah,
Why?
exactly.
Just say the freaking thing. So pineal gland, because Brian and I are in tandem with this, regulates the body's circadian rhythms. B, this is another interesting one here, man. Bro. I'm looking forward for us to diving into because, bro, our sleep. We talked about sleep. We talked about the sleep piece. So, bro, this is gonna be interesting to check in on. And did he talk about? We gonna talk about pituitary gland today? I don't think so, but
I don't think so.
no,
No.
let's skip it over. Now
Yeah.
let's get to it. So,
What do you got for the first one?
bruh, well, the first one I want to talk to when he talked about the frontal cortex, he talked about how it was certain patterns were common in certain people, and I was just like, so my mind started going to like, how the heck does that happen? So your brain is he was talking about the brain consistency. Like it's the consistency of soft butter. Um, and then when he talked about how soccer players have a flat frontal cortex, my mind went to like, is that from headbutting? Is that like because like they have to process so much in a big ass field and timing? Like I just started to really look at like, does our brain matter change based on like what we have the capacity or what we have to have the capacity to do. So that was the thing that really got me when I looked at like brain function and whatnot. I
Yeah,
don't
he
know if
was mentioning that people that like soccer players, like people that live the longest, or people that play like racket sports, and
yeah.
people that live the shortest are like soccer players and football players because they're constantly, using their head to, hit a soccer ball or helmet to helmet, and it just diminishes the prefrontal cortex or the frontal lobe, which diminishes your overall, leads to more like, dementia, Alzheimer's, and all these other kind of neurological diseases down the road. So lot less chance of less chance of living a longer life when you play sports that involve your head, which I thought was interesting. I can see like with the football players, the CTE issues. I never really thought about soccer though, because you think of like soccer as like, air in the ball, but you do that a couple
Yeah.
times. I shouldn't say a couple times. You do, a few thousand times throughout your career, or when they go up for the jump ball and they get their head hit. So I could see how that can add up.
I mean, the thing that got me with that is when he talked about the consistency of the brain. Like, so it's like soft butter. So
Yeah,
even if you have a helmet, bro, it's
sure.
like, I mean, think about it, right? Like, if I've got water, or if I'm like moving around freaking butter and stuff that I've left out, like
Mhm.
that junk vibrates and moves, and especially at the impact of some of these things. Not to mention with some of the headbutts, like from a soccer player, they're like, wow, they're
Yeah,
like really whipping shit, bro. So, and plus it's like a compact area, so I can see that. I mean, it just had my mind going in all different directions, man. With that, like, I'm
yeah,
like, holy shit. With the head trauma sports, man, it's like, yeah, it's very interesting, bro. That shit got me, man. So what's
yeah.
another one? What's another one for you?
But I thought it was interesting when he did Steve Bartlett, even the host of the Diary of CEO that he was on, when he did his brain scan, he was showing what a normal brain looked like. And then he was like, all right, Steve, this is your brain. It's like, I don't really like how bumpy it is. And he's like, then he started asking, he's like, a brain should, not totally smooth, but you have a lot of bumps in the brain, which could be from toxins, alcohol, marijuana, mold, heavy metals, a stressful environment growing up. And I thought that was so interesting, but he's like, basically calm them down. He's like, don't worry about it. Like, worry about it, but there's things we can do. You're not stuck with this type of brain your whole life. There's other things you can do to kind of, have these other parts of your brain, smooth things out. Or when they did another scan, they saw certain parts that were lit up, like the cerebellum was really low and diminished. He's like, you can do this and this and this to kind of increase it and turn it on. So a lot of people, they have toxins. So if you don't drink or you don't smoke marijuana, chances are, if you have like a bumpy brain, which I would just throw out there and say everyone does, especially with the environmental toxins in this world and people that smoke, and most people have too much mercury in their blood for whatever reason. Like mercury, you have to go like on a protocol to get that out. Like mold, you have to go on a protocol and get that out. One of the best things actually to get mercury out of the body, he actually mentions, which we'll talk about later on, is saunas. He's like, that's great for detox.
Oh yeah, he did. Yes. Yeah.
So basically, you have a bumpy brain, you have less activity in the brain. So again, marijuana, alcohol, toxins such as like mold, mercury. If you ever had any kind of infections, that can be an issue as well too.
Oh, it's very we've been talking a lot about the toxins, and as he was talking about that, I was like, golly, man. I gotta tell you, man, there was a part of this that freaking freaked me out, bro.
Well, it's good then.
I was like, is it?
It's going to put some action steps for you to do. If it doesn't freak you out, you're not going to change. Most people don't change until they get a scare.
Listen, man, I don't think I needed all that, bro. I got high blood pressure, so I'm trying to get off meds, man, not increase the dosage. That junk got my freaking blood boiling, man. I was like, oh, junk. But listen, I'm joking and I'm not, but like, it really gets you to look at things, especially with the rise in dementia. I'm just looking at this, like, I think that's like, as I'm talking about this, I think that's the part that really started freaking me out. I'm like, oh my God, like, I want to have my senses about me when I get older, B.
Sure. That's super important. And we realize like all this stuff, like most of us drink. He's like, even a little bit of alcohol, we can go down that road too. It's like even a little bit of alcohol, like that'll shrink the brain because that causes inflammation in the brain. That messes up your sleep. It has a lot of issues. Like, and he's like, even if like you have, like, if I took a picture of one brain or both your brains, and one of the brains that you didn't drink for say 10 years and another brain that you just had maybe 2 drinks a week, I can see a significant difference in the same brains 10 years out. And for me, I was like, wow, it's like, that's pretty impressive, because most people, what do we hear? It's like, 1 or 2 drinks, you'll be fine. Blah, 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 you'll be okay. Or you even read some things where it's like, oh, a glass of wine is really good for you. It's like, no, it's alcohol. And I agree with like, alcohol is alcohol. It's a poison. Think it was like the first time you ever had alcohol in your life. What was your first reaction? You weren't like, wow, this is good. You were probably like,
delicious, right?
Fuck is this shit? Like, this is nasty. Your body, your intuition was on point at that point, but but it's so tough. Like in society, like if we go out with a group of like, say 10 people, chances are like everyone will have like a drink or two. And if you're that one person that doesn't want to have a drink, you're kind of like almost like an outlier. So people are like, what's wrong with you? What's wrong with you?
It's really interesting. You got to really be strong in mind to not do that shit, bro.
Yeah.
You really got, because it's everywhere. It's freaking everywhere. But now they're starting to have more. I think more people are starting to wake up to the consequences of alcohol, because they're starting to see more like whenever I go somewhere, I'm seeing more mocktails. Now it's like anywhere between like 6 to 8 selections, whereas like as little as a year ago, it may have been 2 things, man. So things are starting to shift and change, man, and there are options. Another thing that was getting me talking about when you just spoke about the alcohol shrinking the brain, when he was talking about the increase in weight also having an impact on the brain, bro. So I was like, what? And the thing that got me was when he was like, shoot, man, it made me feel better when he was like, yo, this got me to lose weight. I was like, oh shit. His own stuff got him scared. Okay, it's not just
Yeah,
me.
he was a little chubby, right? He was like 10 pounds overweight. He's like, man, you know, yeah,
Brother, man. But I mean, I think that's so it's very interesting because when he was talking about that, it was around the time he was talking about the blood flow and just how whether it's with stress, I think he was
hmm
talking about like the toxins and how that impacts a lot of these different functions of the brain, man, when there's little blood flow. And we have things that constrict blood flow. And I think that's what he was talking about, like eating more beets and stuff like that to really increase blood flow. But
yeah.
bro,
We
this
talked about this in our testosterone episode with erectile dysfunction,
yep,
and if you have a lot of people like 40% of men at the age of 40 have erectile dysfunction. And every
wow.
year it goes up almost 1%. What I mean by that is by the time you're 70% of men in the world, or I shouldn't say the world, but definitely in the US, have erectile dysfunction. So if you have blood flow, decrease in blood flow in one area of the body, you have it all over the body. So like having like usually erectile dysfunction is your first sign because your body doesn't care if you procreate or not; it wants to survive. So it's gonna lack oxygen in your penis than in your brain because you'll die.
Yeah.
So it goes there first. So if you're having erectile dysfunction issues, or you're not waking up in the morning and between like 5 and 7, and you're not like boom, you probably have some kind of decreased blood flow because
Mhm.
you either have toxins in your body, you drink too much, your sleep is a little off, you're maybe smoking a little too much marijuana, anything. So you want to look at that first. Like again, he mentions, and it makes perfect sense. If you have blood flow restriction anywhere, one place, you have it everywhere. So look at that as an early sign is dementia on its way.
Brother, as above, so below, man.
That's
Yo,
it.
bro, I'm telling you, man, when he said that, I was like, bruh, hermetic principle strikes again. Listen, that will be, you want to give one more, man, before we wrap up, man, and kick off another one later on?
I thought it was interesting when he talked about men and women's brain based on
Oh,
he did over 46,000 scans. And he's like, they're wildly different. I mean, we all know men are different than women. So, like, for
yeah,
example, like women have better frontal lobe function, better blood flow in those areas, which make them, he said, better leaders. Because you have impulse control, you're more into collaboration, nesting instincts, which I thought was interesting. So he's like, it's like when a woman moves to a new home,
yeah,
she's like all about like decorating and everything like that, getting everything unpacked, having organized. It's like the nesting instincts, which I thought was pretty fascinating. So if you ever want to get on her good side when you move in, help her put stuff together. She'll be happier. Get everything organized first. They're
yes,
better at communication, which we all know because again they know how they can handle adversity. I believe a little better because they have more impulse control. I mean, that's why it's like there's 14 times more men get arrested than women. Men just listen, we're idiots sometimes. We're very simple. We go off the
we are.
handle.
This we are. We are super simple.
There's not if you're not if you're a man and you've never done anything stupid where you look back and you're just like, what the fuck? I mean, there's so many things I look back in my life and I'm just like cringe a little bit, like, like what the hell was I thinking? Lack of impulse control there. But
Bro,
yeah.
you know what, dude? That was that when I was doing research on like men's health awareness, and they were talking about like men taking their lives. They were like, that's one of the reasons why men between like
Mhm.
I think it was 19 to 24, like other something like that, or accidents was like one of the top two because they're more impulsive and they take more risks, which end
Yeah.
up costing them their lives, man. It's like
Yeah.
but yo, I mean, it makes sense. I mean, it's interesting, right? Because like good leadership takes a bit of both. There's got to be impulse control, but like the ability to take a risk. I think
Sure.
what I thought was interesting when they talked about
Calculated risk. There's a big difference between taking a risk and a calculated risk. Like men are times more impulsive, like as far as like gambling and addictions and all this other stuff. They take more emotional risks,
right.
to get that dopamine rush, but they don't really take calculated risks.
Brother, this is, I'm telling you, this right here, you just said something so on point, and I think that's true because calculated risk is having the opportunity to harmonize both your prefrontal and the limbic system. Because
Yeah.
if you're able to be like the critical thinker with like and be able to manage emotion and communicate it, which includes that frontal lobe, God,
Yeah.
you're ahead of the curve, man. Ahead of the curve. Kudos to women for winning that one. That's good stuff, man. Good
But
stuff.
they are two times. What do they say? Women get depressed 2 times as much as men because their emotional limbic system is much busier.
Yep. I was like,
Yeah.
ooh.
Yeah.
All of the emotions.
Yeah.
Yo,
And
see,
women are more neurotic too, as far as that. I
listen,
mean, we all have their good, we all have our bad. Not poking
yeah,
fun at,
yeah, nah. I'll just make sure I take that out. So I
Yeah,
need to hear that shit. So
yeah, delete that.
yeah, I'll be like, Brian be like, hey Paul, you gotta
Wearing the ring. Paul be like, "What happened? Wife left me." Like an erotic woman. Limbic system on fire.
yeah, on fire, bro. Limbic system's no joke, man, because that's like the fight or flight, bro. That's the
Yeah,
fight or flight, man. That's crazy stuff. But listen, so this was be anything else like because I want us to talk about the ADD one, but I want to say that for another video,
no,
bro.
that one for the next one. Yeah.
Yeah, say that for another video because that one had some ooh, ooh. But before we wrap up, anything else
Mhm.
on like the physical brain or the functionality that really caught your attention from what Dr. Amen was saying, man?
Can't think of anything off the top of my head. One thing he made a pretty good point. That when it's like over like when people go to see help,
Mm-hmm.
he's like you can. It's like I can look at a brain scan and tell them exactly what they need based on what their brain scan looks like, what kind of past they've had, what kind of supplements or maybe medication they need kind of going forward. But if you go to a psychiatrist, you might have 1,000 people that come to you. You'll be lucky if maybe 2 of those psychiatrists be like, order a brain scan. He's like, that's insane. I think the medical system needs to change because we have so much anxiety, we have so much depression, we have so much, suicide going on, and you're working with people that have a lot of mental emotional issues, and mental health is a big thing. And when they go to seek help, if you don't have like at least like if you don't have a brain scan in front of you, what do you know? You're just guessing at what you're doing. It's like almost like being a trainer. Like if
Yeah,
you're not guessing, you're guessing.
yeah.
So
Like, oh,
I think they should have something where it's almost like mandatory that if you're basically like manic or you're
right.
borderline where do you think you're gonna people if the psychiatrist thinks you're gonna do something dangerous or yourself or someone else like that you need to have a brain scan. I think they should make that more accessible. That's just my opinion. What I got out of that.
Yeah, dude, I'm glad you brought that up, man, because I think again the healthcare system, right? Is what
Mm-hmm.
are we looking to address the root of something, or are we just looking to treat something? Like
Yeah,
there's a specific amount of there's significantly more money in one over the other. But if
yeah,
there's an opportunity for people to really have these brain scans, I mean, listen, people, we're gonna put this in the notes, man, so you all see it. But the stuff that he's put in here
yeah.
is it's some dense, deep, bro. Look, I don't know.
I watched another one of his videos that
Yeah.
he was saying that 37% of people that go to a doctor just for a doctor visit leave with a prescription for an antidepressant or lead with something with like Ritalin or whatever that is. They leave with something that calms the ADD down or an antidepressant. And he's like, what's crazy about it? 50% of this, 50% of the time, it doesn't even work. And he's like, out of that 50% of the time, 25% of that time, it actually makes it worse. You become more depressed. So, I'm not dissing medicine. I think some people need it. at least in the beginning, until they can get to the root cause of the problem, so they don't hurt themselves or hurt anybody else. But a lot of times it doesn't work, and it's been proven by research. And it's like, if you have a brain scan in front of you, you have a better idea of what to look for. You just don't throw people on medicine and hope something sticks and whatever, So
Bro, that's what sometimes people I think
what's up?
I think that's what people do. They just throw the medicine at shit. Like,
yeah.
But again, speaking of what we do, listen, this is a podcast to help you be an advocate for your own health and well-being. So we're telling you about this because, look, some of the stuff that you go to the doctors for, you may it may be associated with something completely different than your doctor or even you think it is. So get the right tools. And listen, this ain't it. This ain't it. Don't you dare think that this is it. We're coming back with more videos, man, because there was a lot in here that we wanted to process. We thought it was important for you all to have. Tune in for next time. Every Wednesday we got a show. We got a full show for you. So tap in. Thank you. We're going to have another video out for you next week talking about the brain and ADD. Ooh. Till next time. B, any last words, bro?
No, man. Let's get out.
Oh, hold on. Peace. Yeah. Later, man. Later.